Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Ben. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate the NIH Body Weight Planner, a free tool available online that can help you plan out a weight loss journey. Of note, this tool only works for adults who are not pregnant or breastfeeding, so this is not for children and adolescents. Certain medical conditions will also make this inaccurate, so check with your doctor if you are not sure if this applies to you. First, I will discuss all the features of the tool. Then I will discuss how you can use it to guide you and see the tremendous impact of individual variability. First, go to Google and type in NIH Body Weight Planner. Hit enter and then click on the link. And here we are. You can see there is a button we can click on to switch to expert mode, and we will do that later. There is also a tutorial video you can watch, though everything in that video is being covered in the one you're watching now. Plus, I am going through additional stuff. So let's put in some starting information, such as 200 pounds, male, 40 years old, and 5 feet 9 inches tall. Then we have to select a physical activity level. If you hover over the icon, you can see this brief description, and then you can click on Estimate Your Level. Now you can select your physical activity at work and during your leisure time. So we can click on Moderate and Very Active. And once we do that, we can see a brief description of what each of these means. If we realize that this is incorrect, then we can switch to something else, such as light and light, which is the default settings. Then we'll click on Save, and we'll click on Next Step. Now we have to select what our goal weight will be and when we want to reach it by. So here we'll put in 170 pounds, and we'll say 365 days from now, which is 1 year. We'll click on Next Step, and then we can select how much we plan to change our physical activity. So we'll click on Calculate, and then we'll say that we plan to add in medium walking for 20 minutes, 5 days, per week. And we'll click Save. So that is an 8% increase in activity. Now we will click on Next Step. The calculator gives us some basic information which could be quite useful. It tells us that to maintain our current body weight, we need to eat around 2,900 calories a day. While to reach our goal weight in 1 year, we have to decrease to around 2,460 calories a day. Once we are no longer in a caloric deficit, then we can increase our calories to our new maintenance level, which will be around 2,650 calories a day. That is all the information available in the basic mode. So let's click on expert mode and see what else we can do. Here we see all of the information that we started with, though now we can also say how we expect our physical activity to change once we reach the maintenance phase after we are no longer losing weight. If we scroll down, we can see a graph, and this shows how our weight will change over time. So we're starting at about 200 pounds up here, and then by the end of the year we're down to 170. The table shows the same values, and if we click on the last number, we can see the final days of the table. The table also shows a high weight and a low weight, and this corresponds to the shaded blue area. If we hover over the icon here, we can see that our expected results are going to be within the shaded blue area. So the dark blue line shows the average value expected in the general population, but the shaded blue area also accounts for individual variability. There are other tabs we can click on as well. If we click on body fat percentage, we can see how our body fat will change over time. But I actually recommend that you do not use this feature with this calculator, because the data that goes into this calculator did not consider populations that used high protein diets or resistance training while losing weight. And if you have watched my prior videos, you'll know that if you follow a high protein diet and resistance training while losing weight, you will likely have better body composition outcomes. So you can actually expect your own results to be better than what this calculator predicts. We can also click on Intake and Expenditure. And then what you can see is there is a blue line and a red line. The blue line shows how many calories we're consuming every single day. So in this example, we're going down to 2,457 and we're staying there every single day for a year. The red line shows our total daily energy expenditure, or how many calories we're burning in a day. At the beginning, we're burning almost 2,900 calories a day, whereas at the end of the year, we're burning only around 2,600 calories in a day. The reason this decreases is due to adaptive thermogenesis, which I have talked about before, and also because as we lose weight, we have less metabolically active tissue, so we will burn fewer calories. We can also click on Tabular to see a table view with all of these values. And then if we look at the top here, we actually have a couple other things we can do. We can click on Lifestyle Change, and this looks at a different type of setting. We'll click back on Intake and Expenditure to make this clear. Previously, we set a goal weight, and it told us how many calories a day we would need to eat to get to that goal. But with Lifestyle Change, we actually say how many calories a day we're going to eat. So the default setting here shows that we're making one change at day 90 and one change at day 180. And you can see at the blue line here, at day 90 we're decreasing our calories, and then at day 180 we're increasing. If we want this to match what we had previously, we have to turn off change 2, and then alter change 1 to start at day 0. And then we can go back to 2,457 calories a day, and we also have to change the physical activity back to 8%. So we'll click enter, and then this shows the same graphs we had before. As you can see, we're still finishing at a body weight of 170 pounds. Now we can also click on advanced controls. Once we do that, we have other options, and you can play with these if you wish, but what I recommend is that you actually ignore all of these, because none of these make that big of a difference or are that realistic to use. So we'll look at something else instead, which is the advanced controls on the left over here. Once we click this advanced controls, we have a couple options. We can alter the percentage of calories from carbohydrates and our sodium intake. But as I just said with the advanced controls for the lifestyle changes, this doesn't make that much of a difference, so I don't recommend actually using this. We can also set our percent body fat, but as I already mentioned before, I don't think you should actually use the body fat percentage feature of this calculator. We can also set our resting metabolic rate, but unless you have undergone rigorous testing to determine this, I would just use the default value that the calculator presents. The more interesting thing to look at here is the uncertainty range. If we hover over the icon and we read the last sentence, it says the overall uncertainty of the starting diet is at least 5%, but is likely 10% or greater. So if we scroll down and we see what the graph looks like, we can then change this uncertainty. If we make it very big, such as 25%, while we do expect the average person to reach a weight of 170 pounds after 1 year, the upper bound now is all the way up to 222 pounds, while the lower bound is 112 pounds or so. That is a very big variability. But if we go with 10%, which the calculator says is more realistic, then we see that the upper bound is actually around 191 pounds, while the lower bound is around 148 pounds. That is a huge range, and this demonstrates how important individual variability can be. Now you have seen all the features that are available with the NIH Body Weight Planner. You can use this tool when starting a weight loss journey to determine the calorie range you will likely need to fall within to reach your goal. Using the example I showed earlier, a daily calorie intake of 2,457 will let the average person with these starting conditions reach 170 pounds in 1 year. But there is an uncertainty range. If we take the daily calories down to 2,088, the upper bound of the uncertainty range reaches 170 pounds. If we take the daily calories up to 2,824, the lower bound of the uncertainty range reaches 170 pounds. Thus, this person will likely need to fall somewhere within this calorie range to reach their goal, and whether they need to be closer to the lower end or the higher end of the range will depend on individual variability. I want to emphasize, this is a large range. Two people with the same starting age, height, weight, body composition, and physical activity level may need to eat very different amounts of calories to reach their weight loss goal. This is one of several reasons why it is much more difficult for some individuals than others to reach a healthy body weight. We will explore this in more detail in future videos. Now you can determine the calorie range you will likely need to stay within to reach your body weight goal. However, this does not tell you where to aim within the range, and as I have discussed previously, it is impossible to track your calorie intake completely accurately. Additionally, some people do not want to track calories all the time. Thankfully, there are ways to work around these limitations, and I will present my preferred strategy for doing so in an upcoming video. Anyways, I hope you all found this video informative, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.